Good people, I pray, give attention. Come hear all we have for to say. And if you're inclined, come and listen. With your eyes open wide now we pray. You'll hear of our lowly commission. We're gathered together by chance to tell tales of dark deeds and romancing, and to lead you a song and a dance. In days of old, long past and gone now, of which we sing with great regard, our country was riven with fairy, the High Queen and her sprightly elf horde, to roam our high hills and deep valleys, delight in the meadows so green, rejoice in the glitch in the forest, find the cracks fall betwixt and between. But these are long days past and gone, now we hear no more high elven song, for the prayers of old priests and bold friars drove out all our thoughts of the throng. Blessing hall, chamber, kitchen and bower, they overran river and stream. Worn paths gone, old stories forgotten, gold flecks turned to dust in sunbeam. But never were we wholly ridden, they found a new path, slipped aside from the places they've lately been hidden. Call to arms, they're now ready to ride, to take back built-up city and skyline, cast shadows o'er Snickerton street. At dawn, fall in dusk and in starlight, glance sideways, you're catching your dreams. So now that you hear our intention, draw near, step inside, take a seat. And if you're inclined, come and listen. Feel the scratch of their breath as we speak. Come twist all your thoughts to our story. The unhidden do call you to come. Hear the tune and strike up the fiddle. We'll dance on to the beat of the drum.
The host is riding from Knocknarea, and over the grave of Cloth na Bear, Caoilte tossing his burning hair, and Niamh calling, away, come away.
Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild.
How do you get to the fairies' realm? You must go by horse or go by foot. Empty your pockets of iron and salt. Wear rowan leaves and a band of green. Don't speak. Don't stop. Don't turn around. Head west to the setting sun and just keep going. You'll find the way.
You can't go to Fairyland, my boy. That door is closed. That place is gone. We don't believe in fairies anymore, and they don't believe in us.
You'll find it, but the way is hard. Go east of the sun, west of the moon.
You must cross over running water 3 times.
You must ride through red blood to the knee.
You must find the door on the cold hillside.
But the other world is a dangerous place. Don't eat their food. Don't drink their wine. Don't bed the beautiful woman in the woods, for she will turn into a monster at dawn. Don't wed the beast, the bear, the snake. He will not be a prince in disguise.
So you want to go to Fairyland? Then come along with me, my child.
You can go, dear girl, but you won't come back.
There it is, just beyond the trees.
Go quickly now. Make haste, make haste.
The host is rushing twixt night and day, and where is the hope or deed as fair?
Caoilte tossing his burning hair, and Niamh calling, away, come away.
Come away, 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 come away.
Alder, elder, aspen, rowan, hazel, maple, beech, birch. Alder, elder, aspen, rowan, hazel, maple, beech, birch. Alder, elder, aspen, rowan, hazel, maple, beech, birch. Alder,
human, I enter ochre, amber, brown tribe of trees. Enter their alder, elder chant. Words that would spell to each other. Hazel, maple, beech, birch, via moist earth, spiky roots metro. Young, I shun the retro-human cycle of birth, youth, bells, birth, death, bells. This human seeks other world, where folks dance to tunes mixed with heartbeats. 10th month shed bronze-shaped dates. Underworld calls, in a voice stiff as drum skins. Earth opens its mouth until yours truly falls underground, where heads, small and tall, forge a grass-green snaky queue. Elves frisk, and giant scans guest list in the pitch-black metro. Low-pitch heart kicks as I enter the crypt, drink my drugs. Music maker makes vinyl earth quake. A dwarf plays piano, then horns, harps. Fairy woman takes stage right in white smoke dress. Her plait, a grass snake. Sings 3 satin notes, and I drown in front vocal. 8 songs later, we share a drink. She speaks burnt aspen. I speak razor-sharp fairy slang. She is beech, birch, witch. I'm under her lingo. We twist limbs round retro tunes. We dance to an other tempo. Today, first light melts dance floor. Lines crack fairy cheek. Piano notes morph. Earth spews me out like a plant. Shit. Alder, aspen, elder, rowan, hazel, maple, beech, birch don't exist. Alder house, elder house, tower block after tower block, where trees lived.
Human, 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 fairy, human, human, troll, human, human, giant, human, 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 fairy, human, human, troll, human, human, giant, human, human, fairy, human, naiad, troll, human, nymph, giant, human, human, fairy, human, naiad, other, human, nymph, giant, human, human, fairy, human, naiad, other, human, nymph, giant, human, giant, fairy, human, dryad, naiad, other, human, nymph, troll.
I come from a long line of musicians, singers, fiddlers, squeezebox players, going back generations. I grew up in the countryside, where the old folk were careful when they sang the old fairy ballads. You don't want to draw their attention, you see. In my grandfather's day, they really believed this. Fairies love music, so if you draw their attention, they'll take you away under the hill and trap you and make you play for their dances. You could be there for a single night or 100 years. Time goes funny under the hill. And if you get out, you'll never be happy with the human world again. We don't talk about fairies much these days, but sometimes I still think about them. We all know people who are lost to the world. They disappear into dreams or drugs or something else. It's like they've been stolen away, and when they come back, they're just not the same. I live in the city now, but sometimes I still feel like the fairies' world is somewhere close by, glimpsed at the corner of my eye. When I play music, and play it well, I feel like I'm right at the edge of that place, and time goes funny, and I lose myself. I can see why fairies love human music, because when we play, we stand on the border between both worlds.
They say that I was too young when my grandmother died to remember her, but I do. How could I ever forget her? My granny was not like anyone else. She was small and thin, bright-eyed as a bird, with a long white braid coiled on her head, white skin that never browned in the sun, and a wild way about her that made people gossip and shake their heads. They say that she'd been strange as a child, and she remained a bit, odd till the end of her life. Sometimes she spoke in her own secret language, but only when she was speaking to me, seventh son of her seventh son. She told me the tale of the place where she came from, and now I'll tell it to you. She came from another country, she said. She didn't know its name. It wasn't like here. It had no night and it had no day, just a low, steady light that never changed. And in that light, everything was green. She called that place the Green Country. So that's what I'll call it too. She had a brother, a little older than her. The two of them were inseparable. One day, they were walking in the hills, in low, rolling hills like the ones we have here, and they found a cave. Or maybe, she said, it was not a cave, but a hole in the hill. Inside was a beautiful light, and the children walked towards it, hand in hand. They entered the cave. The light seemed to beckon them on, so they kept walking, entranced. They walked and they walked until the passageway turned and spit them back out on the hill. Then they stepped outside, still following the light, and found everything had changed. The light was now a gold ball in the sky. They'd never seen the sun before. They'd never seen a sky so blue. They'd never felt air so cold on their skin or grass so brittle under their feet. They knew suddenly that this was not their world, and they turned around to go home again. But the cave was gone. It had vanished completely. Then they sat down under that alien sky, clutching each other in silence and fear, until men returning home from the fields crossed over the hill and found them. Now my mother, she always insisted that Gran was a foreign girl from across the sea, from France maybe, or Germany. But that's not the story my grandmother told, and I know which story's true. The men who took those children home, they knew exactly what they had found. Fairies. They'd found fairies. 2 wild children of the other world. That boy and girl were as green as apples, their hair, their skin, their eyes, their teeth, the clothes they wore, the shoes on their feet. They were small and thin and green all over. They could not speak the king's plain English. They could not eat plain country food. They could only eat beans, which is just what the fairies eat, beans and milk. That's all. That boy, he'd be my great-uncle if he had lived, but he did not. He never learned to eat our food. He pined and sighed and faded away, coloured apple green, until the day they buried him at the crossroads. But my gran, she took to human ways. She ate her porridge, she ate her bread, and the green of her skin slowly faded to white. She learned our language and ran with the other children, the village children, laughing and bright. The vicar's wife took charge of her, and she was christened on a bright summer's day. They called her Mary. They taught her not to speak of the child that she'd once been. They thought that she'd forget. She never forgot, and nor will I.
Days they weren't scared, lying on the cold stones, their arms and legs green, not the dark green of ivy, nor the yellow green of apples that endow summer boughs, not the deep green of the sea, but of the early breaking leaf. And when they their eyes were green too, and they spoke a green language which the trees and flowers knew. The boy died of a wasting, but the girl lived on, eating broad beans. She forgot her green tongue and grew white each day, till christened and named and married all in white, not the white of milk quite, nor the white of a spring lily, waxen and still, nor the white of sea pearls formed in their shells. She was the white of the old moon, shines o'er the hall. That is all, that is all, that is all.
Caught on a lie in a borrowed place, thrilled by a sign in a lonely face. Your timing was off, but your warm embrace felt
As a child, I would go down to the beach on Farrell and sing to the seals, which we know as selkies, and they're known as selkies in many of the coastal areas around the north of the UK. And during this summer, I went back up to Farrell and thought I would try singing in the selkies again. So I was up at the north end of the island where the bay is called the North Haven, and there were several seals in the bay, and I started to sing this little melody which kind of goes like this. Ooh, 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 and so on. And I got interest from the seals. Several of them came in closer to the surf and hung about and watched for a while. But there was one young female seal that was very interested and came right into the edge of the water. And I waded into the sea, just up to my ankles. And she stayed about maybe 3 or 4 meters away from me. And she was very, very interested. And I continued to sing to her. Anyway, we stayed on the beach for another couple of hours, but she never left us. She stayed up just on the very edge of the surf and followed me. If I went to the other end of the beach, she came and she followed me along there and then followed me back. And at one point I was singing away to this one selkie, and some people that had moored from a yacht, had moored down on the pier, came round and were talking to my father, who said, "What's she doing?" And my dad, in a very nonchalant fashion, just said, "She's just singing in the selkies."
One of my earliest memories is when I was little. I grew up in Glasgow and we used to go down the water, it was called, for our summer holidays, and Glasgow City would just empty in a fair fortnight, and on the Fair Friday we'd put on special trains from Glasgow Central. And I remember going down and we were all excited, and you'd get on the train and then you'd go either to Wemyss Bay or Gourock or Greenock or any of these, and you'd go across to Rothesay or Dunoon if you were very posh. Anyway, one summer, I don't know how we'd managed it, but we went to Dunoon and it was exciting and it was wonderful, and I was there. And there was one day we were down the beach and I saw these two ladies and they were singing to selkies. And what terrified the living daylights out of me was the selkies were singing back. And I must have only been about 2 or 3, and it's a really vivid memory because they weren't dressed strangely or anything, they were just two women. I was half scared, thinking maybe they were witches, but I was utterly fascinated with these two women singing to these selkies and singing, and the selkies just singing back and singing back. And that's it.
Otherwise, flow of morning, the scraps of dreams still stranded in our eyes, Commuters thrust inwards pretend there are other worlds than this. On tracks that take us elsewhere from ourselves, coffee smoke speaks modest spells into the air. We plug our ears with tinny incantations, songs that only we can hear. Here's where the glitches live. And though you tell yourself it's just the tricks of the light as it lilts its way over concrete and glass, each day you silently wish for them. Faces forcing their way out of the stone, quick bodies etched in gold and jigging, winking their way through the daybreak mass. Grass gives way to mineral. Our gazes harden as the city appears. We saw, but we did not see, the residents of the edgelands made flesh.
Summer sleeper leaving London, mind already in the north, hearing echoes from the high rocks where beliefs linger still out the window, catching moments between time and tired eyes. She fell quickly into sleep and a stillness of the mind. I saw what I did not see. I saw what I did not see. I saw what I did not see. Now I know. As the day was growing old and the sun was growing dim, when her shadow into motion tossed her head, just a flicker in the light of a faint and dusky face. Silent, I must run, just let me slip away. I saw but I did not see. I saw but I did not see. I saw but I did not see. Now I know. Flowing feline over contours on the dawn and dusty seats, tightly stretching sleepy strands till they snap and break away. Lint and flax, smell of earth, scent of merriment and mirth, with a white heart burst in time. I will never understand. I saw but I did not see. I saw but I did not see. I saw but I did not see. Now I know. Shoot your deer, beat your grouse, lay the trees low with your iron. Our homes, a grazing ground, now the hills lying barren. As you sleep, we go to dance on the back of the wild, but those things don't happen. Such things don't happen now. I saw but I did not see. I saw but I did not see. I saw but I did not see. Now I know.
Air Chief Marshal Lord Dowding was Commander-in-Chief of Fighter Command Royal Air Force from its formation in 1936 until November 1940. He was thus responsible for the preparation and the conduct of the Battle of Britain. With remarkable foresight, he ensured his command was equipped with monoplane fighters, the Hurricanes and the Spitfire. He was among the first to appreciate the vital importance of radar and an effective command and control system for his squadrons. They were ready when war came. His wise and prudent judgment and leadership helped to ensure victory against overwhelming odds and thus prevented the loss of the Battle of Britain and probably the whole war. It is largely due to Dowding that the people of Britain and the free world enjoy the way of life and liberties they have today.
There was a time when the fairies who dwelt in Somerset and the lands to the east of the River Parrett wanted to cross the border and enter Devon. They wanted to settle and extend their territory westwards. However, the Devonian Piskies who already lived there refused them entry. Soon, a war began between the two groups, and it violently and terribly raged across the landscape, the conflict pushed to its limits by the Fairy King. Our scouts have returned with terrifying reports of new activity from the edges of our realm. Giant metal beasts, large enough to carry 1,000 fairies, run across fields like swans launching from a lake. Then they take to the skies, climbing to a height where they are almost out of sight. Suspicion the Piskies have developed a new animal of war have proved to be unfounded. A far more dire source has been discovered. The humans have found ways to shape and control a metallic bird beast. We must seek the root of their intentions. They've laid waste to our lands for all of history, so what new threat is this? All fairies, you must become the eyes and ears of our people. The future of us all depends on each and every one of you.
May the 10th, 1940. I spent the day tidying in the garden, a job that's long overdue thanks to how busy we've all been, and I think I will have even less time soon. The blackbird has been building a new nest. Derek has promised to help me with some tidying if he has an hour or two. It has helped to clear my mind ready for the meeting with Churchill tomorrow. I will have to make him listen, as we simply can't go on like this. We need the squadrons back for defence. If they stay in France, we will lose them all. Once we get this out of the way, I shall arrange another social evening. Good for morale.
It's clear now we fight a battle on two fronts. The great disturbances in the land caused by the human realm have been seen as an opportunity by the Piskies to attack us. It's a fair but cowardly strategy on their part. Our kingdom's homes have been damaged and our sacred places destroyed by the humans. We have been in disarray and confusion, but we have rallied, and retaliation will be swift. I have sent packs of our bravest warriors over Bleak Dun and through the rivers Dart and Yow to hunt down the Piskies. Fighting will be fierce, and we will lose many, but we care not. We will have our revenge. As to the humans, I have sent spies and diviners to find the secrets of their flying machines, their fire, and their terrible cold iron. They drag up the raw materials from the depths of the earth and mold them into these winged beasts. We will find a way to deal with them. They will feel our presence.
October the 10th, 1940. The sherry evening went well, I think. I met an elderly lady from the Theosophist Society who remembered meeting Clarice in India. I imagined how proud she would have been of Derek, seeing our young chick, that little babe she left behind, growing to be a fighter pilot in the great Battle of Britain. The daggers are still out for Keith and I, however. We will have to watch our backs. November the 20th, 1940. Derek came home and we ate some supper together. The evening was unsurprisingly muted. So, the decision has been made. Derek said that Churchill was on my side. I find that very hard to believe. And even supposing that were the case, there is little evidence that he spoke up in my defence. I know what they call me. Stuffy and dismal Jimmy. I suppose I may become a trifle dismal after a few months at the Ministry of Aircraft Production. I dare say in America I will be going over the same arguments, bombers versus fighters. Did I get things so wrong?
There is no time for questions. Believe in me. We have driven the Piskies south and west. Though many of our finest have fallen, we are victorious. But we face an even greater challenge. No war with the Piskies could ever have prepared us for this onslaught of the humans. They take land, mile after mile. They cut straight trenches and flatten our hills and run rivers of metal roads crisscrossing our meadows. They have destroyed the sacred trees and hills of Charmy Down, of Pottery and Dunkerswell for the sake of their sky machines. All I demand of you is trust. How did we get as far as we have in these battles? By faith and sacrifice. This is no time to hide and defend. We turn defeat to attack, defense to offense. We've always tricked humans with our charms and spells. The spies we have planted in their factories and workshops have learned the methods by which they build their machines, the shaping of their parts, the connections, the movements of liquids and forces around their frames. He who has this knowledge can also unbuild at will. We must not hide now from the power of that cold iron. We will attack and take them by surprise.
May 1943. At the United States Air Force Base in Washington today, a very interesting conversation came up around unexplained technical problems at high altitude, unusual damage to equipment, sudden loss of fuel or instruments malfunctioning. Some are trying to blame hallucinations brought on by stress and altitude sickness, but we have intelligence that suggests similar incidents with bomber and fighter pilots in the US Air Force, the Luftwaffe, and the RAF.
We are inside their sky planes. The fight back has begun.
The appearance of strange visions, fairy creatures, some call them gremlins.
Our bravest warriors, some risking certain death but wrenching and ripping pieces from their machines, pulling at the tubes of burning liquid, tearing at the walls and wings of the great iron birds.
An American B-17 pilot heard a strange sound coming from the engine. Instruments on the panel started going haywire. When he looked outside to his right, he saw a freakish creature latched onto the plane. It was 3 feet tall, with abnormally long arms, grey, hairless skin, deep red eyes, a gaping mouth full of teeth, and pointed ears with tufts of black hair at the ends like owl ears, just staring in at him from the wind and bitter cold beyond the glass.
Yes, humans, we are here, face to face. You've turned our world upside down with your weapons, but our spirit will strike fear into your hearts. We dance and we laugh in the face of your flying toys.
The frightened pilot looked to the nose of the aircraft and was astonished to see yet another one of the creatures, apparently dancing and pounding away haphazardly at the fuselage. He thought at first that he was perhaps hallucinating or experiencing disorientation, but he reported that he felt sharp and in control of his senses. The pilot said the strange creatures appeared to be laughing maniacally, and that they gleefully cavorted about outside of his plane, pulling on whatever they could get their clawed hands on, banging on the aircraft with all of their might, and obviously trying their best to bring the plane down. After a bit of manoeuvring, the pilot managed to shake the creatures off the plane, although whether they had fallen to their deaths or merely jumped to another plane, he did not know.
These winged monsters have veins within made from metals ripped from the earth, a place where they should rightfully have remained. We have no protection from these metals, and the energy running through them is powerful. A fairy warrior will be shredded if he spends too long pulling at the seams. Be swift, my brothers. Rip them apart, but do not linger. In one of these sky planes, the damage is so great, the human is so confused and terrified by our fighters that his great machine falls from the sky like a stone to the ground, where it and all of our brave heroes are consumed in an explosion of noise and flames and smoke.
23rd of June 1944, a letter. Dear Mrs. Bynes, thank you for your letter of June the 19th. Since I finished my book, I have had a good deal of personal experience of a different kind, and I agree with almost everything you say in your letter. Knowing my interest in this matter, my long-deceased wife, Clarice, has sent me a long message about the animals, which I hope to publish in my next book. Animals have their own sphere, but pets can be retained in the human spheres so long as the love link lasts. With regard to special places in nature, there is a connection with the astral aspects of our existing rivers. Fairies, gnomes, and nature spirits in general, I now accept holus bolus as to their existence. As to photographs of them, I retain a healthy skepticism unless I know all about the conditions in which the photos were produced. My doubts about reincarnation have now been removed also. I hope to get another book out by the end of the year, but I never get time for it just now. Thank you again for writing. Yours sincerely, Dowling.
I have been abandoned by cowards. Many of my troops have gone to ground in the holes and tunnels in the rocks and trees, but at least those that remain still undamaged by the humans. We've had our successes, but the energy of my forces is fading. In olden times, a hex, a ring, a charm, an elixir, a potion would be enough to settle scores and redress the balance to give us power of the humans, but this new world of metal creatures, sucking the life out of both our worlds. I cannot find new warriors. Many thousands have died a hero's death, but the few that remain are either weak or traitors, siding with the Piskies who have crawled back onto the edge of our kingdom. I sent out calls to the clans of the north, but they do not respond. I will continue to fight to the bitter end, even if I ride into battle alone.
September 1952. Muriel and I had a double celebration. She received an award for services to the RSPCA, and it was our first wedding anniversary. It's surprising to think it is just 1 year since we were married. When we met, I felt as if we had always known each other. A part of me was not surprised when she told me the story of the unknown man in her dreams, introduced to her by her deceased husband, Maxwell. And when it came to be that she then saw the photo of me on the back of my book, Many Mansions, it truly felt that the fates had brought us together. We have found a lovely hotel in Devon that has a chef who prepares vegetarian food. It will be delightful to visit Dartmoor once again.
My fire is dwindling. I wander above the River Dart on these moorlands alone. I take some solace in the faint power that remains in the rocks, but none of my own come near me for fear of the curses they will receive. I am taunted by the occasional young Pisky who was far too young to remember ancient battles. I suffer this constant noise from the human realm, and occasionally one will cross my path.
I had a strange encounter on the moor today. A thick fog came down very suddenly as I was walking between two of the tors.
Lost, are you? What human isn't? All the damage you caused, the havoc you wreak, you haven't even got a clue where you are. Hello? Hello?
I became aware of a low hum, a sort of growling which seemed to be emanating from the very rocks. I sensed a presence all around me.
Oh, you sense me, do you? Feel my presence? My pain? My bitterness?
It's all about frequencies. There are so many signals that are there, but we are not attuned to them. Quentin Crawford of the Fairy Investigation Society is convinced that it is very similar to a radar projection.
Oh dear. Am I on the wrong frequency, Commander? Have you been trying to contact us?
The presence was almost like electricity, and I have to confess, I sensed it was not a friendly presence.
You may be right, Commander. You sure it was me you were trying to contact and not your dead wife?
I was suddenly filled with thoughts and memories of Clarice. I could vividly see her holding Derek when he was just a newborn baby.
Oh, yes. Your son. You sent him into battle, didn't you? While you sat safely behind a desk making all the plans, overseeing the strategy. Some warrior commander.
He survived, didn't he? He is a hero.
And what are the hundreds of thousands of others who didn't survive, that you sent to your deaths?
My dear fighter boys, my chicks, I fought to save you, to bring you all back from France. Strategy, defense, not grand offensives. And I have heard your voices from the other side. Many voices.
Hearing voices, eh? Watch out they don't start thinking you're mad, Commander.
In my sleep, in my dreams, the voices came to me. My boys had travelled through to a different realm, and in that place they were still flying as spirits in fighters, taking off and landing from mountaintop runways made of light. So there is an afterlife, is there not?
You want to believe that so much, don't you? But you know what, Commander?
Yes? Hello?
I can tell you about it. But even if you think you can hear the words I say, you won't remember. And you, human, you can never truly understand.
He was an intensely sincere man, intensely patriotic, and he loved us, the chaps who did his fighting for him, as though we were children. He is a grand man in many respects.
Fighter Command was a remarkably good organisation. The Commander-in-Chief, Stuffy Dowding, was a brilliant operator, and he had conceived the whole layout, the whole setup, and he ran it perfectly.
Churchill declared that on Christmas Day, 1940, that every church bell in the country would be rung to celebrate the fact that we had beaten back the German attempts to invade us. Dowding was not even in the country when the church bells to celebrate the victory were rung.
I think the politicians didn't give Dowding the honours he deserved.
A long, long time ago, a man named Hurler, King of the Britons, travelled to the other world to attend the Dwarf King's wedding. He came home again with many fine gifts, including a beautiful bloodhound. The Dwarf King warned, "Your men must not dismount until the dog jumps down." But some of them did, and they instantly crumbled to dust. Now Hurler and the rest of his men are forced to ride for eternity. On certain nights, you can see them ride through the stars above. When you hear the sound of geese on the moor, you might fancy you hear the baying of Gabriel's hounds, the spectral beasts running with the doomed King Hurler and his men. lonely walks on cheerless moors, sky help us stir north storms. In the winter wind, 7 whistlers sing, and there's ghosts in those notes as wildfowl fly south. Whoso here shall die and rise, riding the wild wastes of the sky to the end of days. Souls will race, doomed to a moonless chase. For kith and kin, a legend sings, and the hounds of hell draw you under their spell.
The thing you need to know, child, is that trees do speak. They do tell tales. They sing when they've a mind to. They are gigglers, gossips, grumblers, cataloguing every ache and pain. And yet they hold no grudges, claim no debts, speak ill of no creature. They have their tempers, yes, tantrums of branches lashed in gusts and gales, but then they come to rest in stillness, spent, humming contentedly. You've heard them, dear, just yesterday. You thought it was only the wind. The thing you need to know is that each morning every tree stands tall and chants its name, its history, its kinship web and lineage. You've heard them, dear, but thought it was the dawn chorus of the birds. The thing you need to know is that the trees tell stories older than the oldest tales of humankind. By dusk, by night, by starlight, you have marked their midnight murmuring. You told me so, but thought it was just water rushing through the stream. The thing you need to know, child, is that trees do speak in their own language. They mutter in the crackle of autumn leaves. They sigh as snow settles at their feet. They utter exquisite arboreal poems as each tender young leaf unfurls. They laugh in shivers of green and gold when tickled by a summer's breeze. The thing you need to know, child, is that trees do speak in the tree language. And yes, you will understand their speech one day, root child, sweet sapling.
What crawls within the fetid mire? Here in the rot is life, life sustaining. The spores that fly from pores are wise. We are old, but the trees are older. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Marsh floods with blood, mad blood, bad blood. Blood of mankind, unkind to reason. Driving winged warriors farther below to lick their wounds heals and casts spells to replenish. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. White is the knuckle cocooning the coin, a gift from the goddess who yearns for rebalance. Bemused the receiver, unfurling his palm, revealing a leafy reminder. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh.
They used to say if a child was strange or ill or failed to thrive, it was because that child had been stolen away by the fairies. A changeling would be left in its place, a twisted creature who looked like the child but wasn't really human at all. Back in my great-grandmother's day, there was a girl down the road with a birth defect who was shunned as a changeling child. Of course, such a thing wouldn't happen now, but I think any parent who watches a son or daughter change suddenly, without explanation, can understand the fear that lies at the heart of these terrible stories.
Something's happened to my son. He's not the same child I breastfed. He was healthy. I haven't slept in 3 nights, watching over his cot for signs of a change, when his eyes click open like a china doll. He can't remember how to be Samuel. He looks at me as if I'm not his mother. His eyes are grey-green. They say babies' eyes change colour in the middle of the night. He used to call me Mama. Now, he only makes noises I don't understand. I don't understand. Now, he only makes noises. Ma, ma. He used to call me in the middle of the night. They say babies' eyes change colour. His eyes are grey, green. I'm not his mother. He looks at me as if he can't remember how to be Samuel when his eyes click open. Like a china doll, watching over his cot for signs of a change, I haven't slept in 3 nights. I breastfed. He was healthy. He's not the same child. Something's happened to my son.
I
I believe people saw fairies, but I think one reason no one sees them now is because every place in this parish where they used to appear has been put into sheep and deer and grouse and shooting. Before the big sheep came, the fairies are supposed to have had a premonition that their domains were to be violated by them. A story is told of a fight between the sheep and fairies, or else of the fairies hunting the sheep.
We're living in a time where we are heavily defended against experiences of our own beauty. What's going on with the laptops and the screens and everything, it means that our gaze is becoming compromised. We no longer feel the 10,000 trembling secrets at the edges of our visions. But go to any indigenous hunter and say, where is your vision most potent? And it is on the edge of things.
Oh, the fairies, yes. A lot of old men believe firmly in them.
And have you seen the fairies?
Oh yes, quite regularly. There are certain fairies I speak to regularly, others come and go.
They believe in a lot of things. I know my own paternal grandmother, she used to put out honey and milk for the fairies every night in life. I know that. She did, yes.
I think it depends on what you mean by see. Seeing means lots of things to lots of different people. I don't think we can photograph them, although lots of people in various times have claimed to have done just that. But I think we can see them in other ways.
Fairies. What are fairies? No. The energy.
And it was a very hot day in July, and when he got up to the top of the hill, they call it Stranionachan. There's a little loch there, it's not a big loch, and a heathery knoll at the end of it, close to the road. And he thought he would sit down there and have a good rest, and then carry on. And as he was sitting there, he happened to see a herd of what he took to be goats coming round the far side of the loch, and he kept watching them coming round. But when they came near him, he discovered that it was all little men and women. When they came back the following morning to continue with the job, they found that the whole lot was finished right down to the show. So, I suppose at the time everybody believed in fairies. They sort of agreed together so that the work was finished by the fairies.
Did I believe in fairies?
Yes, did you when you were born?
No, I don't think so.
But the old people?
Oh, the old people did, yes, and they believed in a water horse and a water bull. In fact, you know, they were more or less pagans, I think, a lot of the people in the Highlands.
People really believe in fairies?
No, I don't think so. Not latterly, anyhow. Probably earlier on, perhaps a couple of 100 years ago, so they might have done, but not in my mother's day, no.
Did they think fairies?
Oh, they thought the fairies danced in these rings.
Yes.
Of course, it's caused by a fungus.
In fact, they have gotten the Icelandic Supreme Court to delay the road as they figure out if there's going to be environmental concerns and whether there are going to be concerns about elves along the way. They say there might even be an elf church on the path, and that's why it's holy ground. I'm just wondering whether the realm of the imagination, the realm in which fairies dwell, is in fact a sort of intermediate realm, neither completely in your head, neither completely in the world, but somehow crossing over, transcending the two, belonging to both, and yet belonging to neither. And that, of course, is something which many educated, secular, scientifically trained Westerners find difficult to accept.
No, I can't prove to people that fairies exist. I mean, I believe that they do. I can only show a glimpse into my belief.
But what is culture, anyway? For far too long, our society has deemed culture to be the opposite of nature. It bores me senseless, that argument. The very etymology of the word culture is derived from cultus, the rituals around the cultivation of plants. Culture is embedded in nature.
We got caught in a storm. We're 2,500 feet up this mountain of storm raging. I went out, there was a wee ridge, and in the wee ridge, in the wildest place in Scotland, there was one footprint this size, your pointed foot, and one this size. And the deer had run round it. And I went to Douglas and I went, "You tell me that's no there, man."
The old man believed
the energy.
We are not rational beings. We are fooled that we are, but we're not. We make animistic, immediate decisions all the time. Myth understands this. Myth says, why on earth would you suspect that your wife is a woman 24 hours a day? Do you not realise that at dusk, for at least 45 minutes, she is a fox with 8 tails? Have you not realised yet that when she's looking out of the window with those grey eyes of her, she has become a seal inside the whole of her own heart, and she is down there in those deep oceanic waters? At best to leave her alone at that moment.
People often ask me, how do you see fairies? See them through the eyes, you see them through your heart. And that took me a long time to learn.
Another friend was driving back to her home on the moor one summer evening when she found herself in the most beautiful wood. She had no sense of strangeness, but drove through it, entranced by the loveliness of the evening light shining through the trees. Coming out of the wood, she found herself at home, put the car away, and went about the normal business of the evening. And only gradually did she remember that her road home lay through an open stretch of moorland. There was no wood there, not now. The next day, she went to see an old man who had lived all his life on the moor, and told him what had happened. He nodded his head. "I know the wood, ma'am," he told her. "I've been there myself, but only once. You'll not see it again. It's only once in a lifetime."
J.R.W. Coxhead tells the story of Moll Stancombe from my village of Chagford, who in the form of a hare was often coursed by hounds but could never be caught. One of her former lovers, whom she had rejected, loaded a gun with silver bullets and attempted to shoot her, but the gun exploded and blew off his own hand. A rival witch at length revealed that Moll could be caught by a spayed bitch. Hare and bitch seemed evenly matched for a time, but at last the dog managed to bite her flank as she scrambled through a hedge. The owner of the dog then went to Moll's cottage, looked through the window, and saw her putting plaster on a wound. It corresponded exactly with the spot where the dog had bitten. Coxhead reports that no further harm came to Moll, who never again appeared as a hare, at least where ex-lovers could see her.
And when she comes like wine, flooding my veins with her rosehip. And when she comes, I feel her dark ask, pressing its shade to my skin. I let her in, I let her in, and when she comes, I yield to her cry, your name's within me. And when she comes, we soar with one shape, surrender ourselves to the wind. I let her comes, we leap like flame and turn up our hearts to the moon. And when she comes, I yield to her cry, forcing our parting too soon. I let her in, I let her in, I let her in. She goes, she leaves me gold-flecked, and I kick the dawn o'er the fields. I let her go. I let her go. I let her go. I let her go.
In another tale from Tavistock, an old woman, confused and mistaking the time, got up at midnight and set out for market. Somewhere on the moors, in the small hours, she heard the cries of the wild hunt and saw a frightened hare, which was evidently their quarry. Being kind-hearted, she gathered up the creature and hid it in one of her panniers. Presently the devil himself appeared in the form of a black-clothed horseman, cloven-hooved, horns sprouting from his head, and riding a headless horse. He asked her if she had seen the hare, but she replied, no. After he had passed, she released the hare from the pannier. It turned into a beautiful young lady in white, who told the startled woman that she was not an inhabitant of this world, but was suffering punishment for a crime committed during her earthly life. She said she was doomed to be constantly pursued, either above or below ground, by evil spirits, until I could get behind their tails, whilst they passed on in search of me. In return for the old woman's help in fulfilling this condition, she promised her, as a reward, that your hens shall lay 2 eggs instead of 1, that your cows shall yield the most plentiful store of milk all year round, and you shall talk twice as much as before, and your husband stand no chance at all in any matter between you to be settled by the tongue. It is said that from then on the affairs of the old woman prospered.
"20 miles east of Inverness, on the strip of lowland lying between the Cairngorm Mountains and the Moray Firth, lies an approximately mile-long crescent-shaped scattering of small glacial hills. Some are spherical, others elliptical, and they rise from the flatlands like emerald green burial mounds. The last mound to the north, known as the Downy Hill, is the place where Isabel Gowdy, the Queen of Scottish witches, claimed to have feasted with the King and Queen of the Fairies.
I was in the Dooney Hills and got meat there from the Queen of Fairy, more than I could eat. The Queen of Fairy is brawly clothed in white linens and in white and brown clothes, and the King of Fairy is a braw man, weel favoured and broad-faced.
Isabel was tried in the witchcraft trials and her confession was recorded in the 1600s. It's one of the truest and longest confessions from that time, and it paints such a vivid picture of this incredible character.
I had a little horse and would say, "Horse and hattock in the devil's name," and then we would flee awa where we would be, even as straws would flee upon an highway. We will flee like straws when we please, wild straws, and corn straws will be horses to us when we pit them betwixt your foot and say, "Horse and hattock in the devil's name." And when any sees these straws in whirlwind and do not sanctify themselves, then we may shoot them dead to our pleasure. Any that are shot by us, their soul will go to heaven, but their bodies remain with us, and will flee as horses to us, as small as straws.
Part of the confession, she talks about how she met with the kings and queens of the fairies and the time she spent with the devil, and she also shares the spells that she would enunciate to change into different animal forms.
I shall go into in here with sorrow and sick and meikle care, and I shall go in the devil's name, I will I come hame again. I shall go into a cat with sorrow sick and the blackest sark, and I go to the devil in the devil's name, I stay till I come hame again. I shall go into a craw with sorrow sick and a jet black thraw, and I go to the devil in the devil's name, I stay till I come hame again.
I shall go into a house with sorrow, sigh, and with mickle care. I shall go into a house with sorrow, sigh, and with mickle care. I go to the devil in the devil's name, and stay till I come home again. I go to the devil in the devil's name, and stay till I come home again. I shall go into a cat with sorrow, sigh, and a jet black shot. I shall go into a cat with sorrow, sigh, and a jet black shot. I go to the devil in the devil's name, and stay till I come home again. I go to the devil in the devil's name, and stay till I come home again. I shall go into a crow with sorrow, sigh, and the blackest throw. I shall go into a crow with sorrow, sigh, and the blackest throw. And I go to the devil in the devil's name, and stay till I come home again. I go to the devil in the devil's name, and stay till I come home again. I shall go into a house with sorrow, sigh, and with mickle care. I shall go into a house with sorrow, sigh, and with mickle care. I go to the devil in the devil's name, and stay till I come home again. I go to the devil in the devil's name, and stay till I come home again. devil in the devil's name and stay till I come home again. I go to the devil in the devil's name and stay till I come home again.
Once upon a time, there was a girl, there was a boy. There was a poor woman who wanted a queen who couldn't have a witch who lived under. There was a green frog at the bottom of a troll tree, a bird, and a bright-eyed bird who knew the secret of a fairy who had lost, a child who had found, a wizard who had made. There was a princess who had broken. There was a story trying to be told.